Here's a detailed history of Ibrahim Traore, the current interim leader of Burkina Faso. Early life and education. Born March 14, 1988. Place Kura, Bondakai Department, Mohoun Province, Burkina Faso. He completed primary school in his hometown and moved to Bobo Dioulasso for secondary education. In 2006, Traore enrolled at the University of Ouagadougou and studied geology. During his university years, he became politically active through student groups like Association of Muslim Students, Association Nationale des Étudiants Burkinabé, ANEB, known for Marxist and revolutionary views. Military career. Joined the Burkinabé Armed Forces in 2010. Rose through the ranks and became a captain by 2020. Served in the Cobra Special Forces Unit, focused on counter-terrorism operations. Actively involved in military operations in the north of Burkina Faso, combating jihadist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Political involvement in coups. January 2022. Traoré participated in the coup that brought Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba to power. However, Damiba's government struggled to contain the growing jihadist insurgency. September 30, 2022. Ibrahim Traore led another coup, removing Damiba, citing failure to improve security. October 6, 2022. Traoré was officially appointed interim president at age 34, making him the world's youngest state leader at the time. Presidency 2022 present. Key goals and actions. Security-focused leadership. Launched campaigns to reclaim territories from jihadist groups. Reorganized the military and sought new international partnerships. Shifted away from Western allies like France, leaning toward cooperation with Russia, Turkey, and Mali. Popular among many citizens for his nationalist and pan-Africanist stance. Key events. 2023-2024. Continued heavy military engagements, mobilized thousands of civilian volunteers to join defense efforts. May 2024. Extended the transitional period by 5 more years, pushing back elections. Late 2024. Government froze the assets of suspected jihadists and opposition figures. Proposed reinstating the death penalty, abolished in 2018, to strengthen the fight against terrorism and crime. Leadership style and ideology. Seen as anti-imperialist, promoting Burkinabé sovereignty. Emphasizes Pan-African unity, particularly in alignment with other Sahel nations like Mali and Niger. Often wears military fatigues and local fabrics, symbolizing solidarity with common citizens. His government suspended French media and military presence, reflecting tensions with the West. Captain Ibrahim Traore, as interim president of Burkina Faso, faces several major challenges, both internally and externally. Here's a breakdown of the key issues confronting his leadership. 1. Jihadist insurgency. Biggest challenge. Ongoing attacks from Al-Qaeda and ISIS-affiliated groups. Over 40% of the country is outside government control. Thousands have been killed or displaced since the insurgency escalated in 2015. Traoré launched civilian defense forces, VDPs, and intensified military offensives, but the insurgency remains active. 2. Humanitarian crisis. Due to conflict and instability. Over 2 million people displaced internally. Rising hunger and lack of access to clean water, healthcare, and education. Aid delivery is complicated by insecurity and strained relations with international agencies. 3. Political legitimacy and democratic transition. Traoré came to power through a military coup, and elections have been postponed. In May 2024, the transition was extended by 5 more years, sparking concerns over long-term military rule. There's increasing pressure, internally and externally, to return to civilian governance. 4. International isolation. Strained ties with France and Western allies following the expulsion of French troops and suspension of French media. Suspicion from international organizations about democratic backsliding. Sanctions and aid reductions have followed some of these moves. 5. Dependence on new alliances. Traore has aligned more closely with Russia, Turkey, and fellow Sahelian juntas Mali and Niger. While these alliances provide military support, they also limit flexibility and raise concerns about external influence from new partners. 6. Economic struggles. The conflict and instability have damaged agriculture, trade, and investment. Youth unemployment is high. Infrastructure and development projects have stalled in conflict zones. 7. Internal military cohesion. Traore's rise was preceded by infighting within the military. Maintaining loyalty among the ranks and preventing another coup attempt is an ongoing challenge. 8. Balancing revolutionary ideals with governance. Traore promotes Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialism, and revolutionary rhetoric, especially among youth. Translating those ideals into practical policy that delivers results is a difficult balancing act. Since Ibrahim Traore's coup in September 2022, Burkina Faso has experienced several notable changes and developments. 1. Political landscape asterisk. Traore's takeover signified a continuation of military rule after previous coup leaders in January 2022. His government emphasized the need for stability and reforms in the wake of ongoing insecurity. 2. Security situation asterisk. Burkina Faso has been grappling with a severe security crisis due to the presence of extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The new government has prioritized military action against these groups, but the violence has continued, with increased attacks on civilians and military personnel. 3. Public sentiment asterisk. There has been a mix of support and criticism for the transitional government. Many Burkinabe citizens initially expressed support for Traoré, hoping for an improvement in security and governance. However, as the violence persisted, public frustration grew. 4. International relations asterisk. The coup and subsequent government have affected Burkina Faso's relationships with international partners, especially Western nations. The new leadership has sought to balance relations with both Western and regional powers, while also showing signs of leaning towards other partners, like Russia. 5. Socio-economic challenges asterisk. The country continues to face significant socio-economic issues, including poverty, unemployment, and food insecurity. The ongoing violence has exacerbated these problems, displacing thousands of people and straining resources. 6. Reform efforts asterisk. The transitional government under Traoré has indicated intentions to implement reforms aimed at addressing the underlying issues contributing to insecurity and political instability. However, the challenge remains in effectively executing these plans amid ongoing threats. Overall, while there is a strong desire for change and improvement, Burkina Faso continues to navigate a complex landscape of security challenges and governance issues since Traoré's rise to power. For the latest developments and in-depth analyses, consulting up-to-date news sources and reports is advisable. The leadership of Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso has elicited a range of reactions both domestically and internationally since he came to power in September 2022. Here are some of the key reactions. ## Domestic reactions. 1. Support from certain segments asterisk. Initially, Traoré garnered support from various segments of the population, particularly among those who were weary of the increasing violence linked to jihadist groups and disillusioned with previous governments' inability to address security concerns. 2. Public protests and expectations asterisk. Many citizens expressed hope that Traoré's government would bring about necessary reforms and improvements in security and governance. However, as violence continued and security challenges persisted, frustration grew among the populace, leading to protests against the government. 3. Resistance from political parties asterisk. Some political parties and civil society organizations have been critical of the coup, advocating for a return to constitutional order and elections. They have expressed concerns about military rule and its implications for democratic governance. International reactions. 1. Western nations concerns asterisk. Many Western countries, including France, expressed concern over the coup and its implications for democracy and human rights in Burkina Faso. There were calls for a swift return to civilian rule and to uphold democratic processes. 2. Regional responses asterisk. The Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS condemned the coup, emphasizing the importance of democratic governance and stability in the region. They imposed sanctions and sought to mediate a path toward a return to civilian rule. 3. Increased interests from non-Western powers asterisk. In contrast, Traore's government has shown a willingness to engage with non-Western nations, particularly Russia. This has included discussions about military cooperation in combating terrorism, reflecting a shift in foreign policy dynamics. 4. Human rights concerns asterisk. International human rights organizations have raised concerns about potential abuses during military operations against terrorist groups and the treatment of political opponents. There are worries about how human rights would be protected under his leadership. Summary. Overall, Ibrahim Traore's leadership has been met with a complex mix of support and skepticism. While there is hope among some for security improvements, concerns about the implications of military rule, potential human rights abuses, and the need for a return to democratic governance remain significant challenges he faces. The situation continues to evolve, and the reactions to his leadership may change depending on developments in security, governance, and public sentiment.